What's up, everybody? Welcome back to topic 1.1 developments in East Asia. I am Timothy, and today we'll be talking about how China was so great. Okay, starting this thing off, we're starting everything, starting from Unit 1 to 2, from the period 1200 to 1450, which is a very long time ago. If you were born here, you'd be like Mega Unk or Grandpa Unk or great, I don't know, very old. Anyways, the Song Dynasty is what was ruling China, and it was very culturally diverse and it had lots of innovation and it was super strong. The government and society in China heavily relied on a bureaucracy, which allowed for the empire to have like a uniform sense of messages for the emperor. And along with this, it had officials working in the government under a civil service exam, which was kind of like an AP exam, but 100 times harder. And it was based on like lots of like books on Confucianism. And if you did it, you got paid really good. And I, it was this fact that the Song Dynasty declined because it paid the workers very, very well. The economic developments in China included the Grand Canal, which was very good at attracting some trade to China. Obviously, a Grand Canal will help, like Panama Canal or like the Suez Canal. They obviously help trade, and this was like one of the earliest ones, so it's pretty cool. And gunpowder here was traded for other things. They also used the the Silk Road, which is another way to trade. And they also traded champo rice, which they got from Vietnam, by the way. And it grew the population because food equals babies. And more governments and societal things. They also had like steel to make bridges. They had coal and they used it for steel. And they had a lot of like early form of industrialization. It was like they made a lot of stuff and they couldn't sell it. It's called proto-industrialization, by the way. Key vocab word, memorize that for the AP exam coming up soon. And largely, they were all artisans, like in Stardew Valley, where they made their own things. And it was pretty good because you could make a lot of money like that. And they paid people using taxes to work on government projects, like a steel bridge. Okay. Also, China had tributes. China had a lot of tributes under the Song Dynasty from Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, and they all did like this Naotao, which was like this bowing. Social structures. Basically, here it is. The very top of a social structure pyramid is scholar gentry, which are the very smart and Confucius guys. Under them are the aristocrats. They're just rich landowners, pretty rich guys. Intermediate range would be like the farmers, the artisans, and at the very bottom would be merchants. And the reason why merchants are at the very bottom is because according to China, Song Dynasty values under Confucianism was that if you made stuff, that was good. But if you just traded stuff and moved things around, they didn't think that was a good job. They thought get a real job instead. And at the very, 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 very bottom are women. I know. And they basically got foot binded and got patriarched. But only in aristocratic societies, I mean, aristocratic households, because the poor people couldn't afford that, and peasants. That'd just be hurting their economy. Intellectual and culture. They printed books using wood blocks and they made booklets on how to farm effectively. And most peasants were illiterate still. So, I mean, they had to expect. And they were also only the privileged could actually read. And that could also mean that only the privileged could pass the Confucian like exams. So that's kind of bad for them. The diversity in Song Dynasty included Buddhists from India. There's Buddhists in Song, and there was also Chan Buddhism, which was like a syncretic faith, which was Buddhism plus Taoism. And also, the Confucians and Taoists didn't like Buddhists. They hate Buddhists, so they burned them down. But during the Song Dynasty, it was okay. And Song Dynasty China decided that the final piety was good, and New Confucian and everything else, like Confucianism, was good. And New Confucianism was the new thing that arrived in the Song Dynasty. And Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. Japan copied China for the most part during the Heian period, and it basically had feudalism was Bushido, basically that. And Korea had majority of its politics from China, and the wealthy people practiced Confucian classics while the poor people copied Buddhism. And the aristocracy was very strong compared to China's. That's why it was independent and not colonized like in the future. And Vietnam, right now, I mean, in the past, had nuclear families and was woke. I mean, it did not practice polygamy, much like the Song Dynasty that did. And it also defended its own territory with guerrilla warfare, much like how they did in the Vietnam War to the present. Well, that's the end about the AMSCO Animated Review Unit 1.1. I hope you enjoyed it.